Welcome to the Working Women's Channel. My name is Clara Capano, and we're going to share the real secrets to success. Come on in. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Working Women Channel. Today we are going to be diving into the key components of showing up and running your business as an entrepreneur, and also keeping in mind the importance of serving your clients along the way. So today I'm joined by my dear friend, Renee. Renee, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, you have been somebody I've been wanting to interview for a long time, not just because of your messages, but also, you know, we've known each other for 20 years. And you are my longest relationship.
I'm honored.
So we go way back, and you know, have shared so many different stories together and journeys together, and it's just an honor to be able to have you here.
Oh, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Good. So let's just dive right in. You know, you have run your own business for many years as a stylist. It's all been you, even before sort of being an entrepreneur was the hip, cool thing to do. And I know that the road to creating and running your own business isn't always easy. So can you think about a time where maybe success wasn't always guaranteed, or maybe you were struggling, and how you were able to face that and overcome it?
Well, there's, starting your own business is kind of the goal in hairstyling, right? You start out working at a commission salon, working for someone else. So you always hope, that you're going to be able to work for yourself one day and be in charge of yourself. That was never a huge challenge for me. I started my clientele back in Nebraska, and I only worked for someone for 2 years. So by 23, I was working for myself. Moving out here was the first challenge, and I met you shortly after I moved out here. And starting over again, working for someone else. Again, within 2 years, I was self-employed. And so that part, getting clients, building relationships, I was always very confident in my skills and my training. So that part was never hard. The hard part for me was when things were going on in my own life. As they do, things like, relationship problems, family things, anything like that made it really difficult to find a way to come and show up and kind of put on the hairdresser mask, right? Like, you are needing to be creative, skillful, technical, personable. You're a therapist, you listen, you talk back, and you're doing all of this all the while trying to do a good job at your craft. So it's this multifaceted thing that it looks like we're just having fun, we're artists, we're creative, we're happy, we're outgoing, we're these, really fun people to be around, when inside there could be a war going on, right? And I think that's where most hairstylists struggle. And so I was pretty good at dealing with that until there was a specific time in my life where everything fell apart. The salon I was working for, the young woman that owned it started battling cancer. She was only 27. My mom had a terminal illness. My uncle had a terminal illness, and my engagement was falling apart.
That's all.
Oh, that's all.
That's it.
And so I had to find a way every day to show up and come in. That was probably the hardest time in my life and my career, in trying to find that balance.
So, how do you show up when the world around you is falling apart? Because we've all had those moments. I mean, as women, it could happen to us at any given day. How do you actually convince yourself or direct yourself to show up when you really don't want to?
It was hard. I would, a lot of times it was just shutting down and shutting those things off, right? Whether that be through unhealthy habits like drinking, going out all the time, just finding a way to get away from myself. I would do, when I thought I was being healthy, I would be working out all the time, or skiing all the time, or traveling all the time. There were just all these things that I could talk about with people that made my life seem like it was really great, and I was handling everything so well. It was the lack of vulnerability. I didn't ever want to be vulnerable with people. And so I put on this mask, this ego, this persona, right? And that's what we're taught in the service industry from a very young age, right? Is that we're there to serve. The customer comes first. You and your problems really don't matter. And I think women get told that a lot, right? I'm not a mother or a wife, so I don't have those pressures at all. But my clients and those relationships have always been my focus. And so they come first. What they need comes first. Right. My friendships, what they need come first. And so I think the service industry kind of got seeped into my blood.
So that's a really good point, because, I think so many times as we're running our own business, we're taught the customer is always right, or again, give and give and give. And there's that dynamic and that balance between serving, but then also being authentic. So do you feel you've been able to bring those together over the years?
I have. I had that was a very dark period, like I just explained, and that period sort of woke me up. And I realized that the things that I was doing was not working for me. My body was breaking down physically, emotionally and mentally. I was not, the capacity that I had to show up every day was just getting less and less and less, and it was showing. And so, I've been practicing yoga my whole life, but really not practicing yoga. And so I went to a teacher training. I went to a place that was, I tried to find a place that was presenting the least amount of cultural appropriation, that tried to keep it more traditional. And so we started, I had to meditate every day for 30 minutes, every single day. There's no way you can't change, right? There's no way you can't see what you're not doing and what you are doing. And so it just started to change my life in ways, I started realizing how much I was drinking. I started realizing how much I was partying. I started realizing when I showed up for my clients, it's like, I'm just being fake. And these relationships are great and I have a healthy business, but what if I tried to share a little bit of this with them? And so I started talking to them about my journey with yoga. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. We just look at it as a physical practice. I'm like, no, it's more than that. So I started incorporating that and talking to them about that, giving them some meditations to do. And it wasn't, there's a difference between oversharing and vulnerability, right? I think Rene said that. Right. And so I think, you always there's always a fine line between that, but I think we started finding it, me and all of my clients. You and I have always been friends from day one, so I've always overshared with you. Yeah. But yeah, but I think, and it started seeping in, and so it's one of those things that once you start being honest with yourself and honest with people, they appreciate it. So I started attracting more clients that were more like that were more authentic, that weren't there to just be this version of what society wanted them to be. But how can I make them feel like the best version of themselves? Instead of, what's the new style and what's the thing that everybody wants? It's like, well, what do you want? What looks good on you? What makes you feel good? So I went from this stylist that was just performing and doing whatever that person wanted to finding out what they needed and giving them what they needed to support their lifestyle, to support how much time they had, and to support who they really wanted to express themselves as.
So I do have a question for you, because you are in a position that is unlike a lot of other businesses. You kind of joked that you're part therapist, which is true. So you're sitting there on your feet all day with these women coming in, and let's be honest, they're dumping on you. They're telling you the ins and outs of their lives, the good, the bad, and probably mostly the ugly. And you want to be there and you want to connect with them and certainly share, but how do you not let that always seep into you? Because they could share some very deep, dark things with you, and you have someone else coming in right after them.
Right.
How do you balance and not let it deflate you?
Well, that took a long time to learn, that was something that is an actual, you have to actually do something between each person. I started doing a lot of studying and researching on energy, right? And the fields of energy and the field of energy that we all live in. And so it took me to Reiki. So I have a Reiki master, this woman that used to work on me when I was going through my healing process. And so I decided to get a Reiki attunement, level 1 and level 2, and learning what energy is and how it feels in your body and how we can all affect each other's energy. And so learning about that, I tried to figure out ways, and there are ways, where you can kind of set up an energetic bubble around yourself, right? Where it's a mindful way of setting up space between people where you can let them in and you can have conversations and you can be there with your whole heart, but you're not taking it in and holding on to it, right? You're feeling it, you're there with them, but there's about a 6-foot bubble with most people. Some people it's a little closer, some people it's a little further, but you have to actually set that up for yourself and protect yourself and protect your energy. And then when they leave, clear it out and say, I'm actively clearing this out and finding ways to do that. But I had to learn that. That's not something that you learn in school. It's not something that we talk about in our industry. We didn't used to anyway. I started doing hair in the 90s. And that wasn't a part of it at all. Like holistic hairstyling is something that's not even really talked about that much, I don't think anyway. I haven't been in school in 26 years. So it's something that we're all as an industry starting to realize. And so that's what I do. I just set up an energetic boundary. I tell myself it's real quick, right when they get there and then right when they leave.
I think that's so beautiful because I think as women, we're always running from one thing to the next. And we don't understand that we have to understand that energy because we're all senders and receivers. And you don't want to take one meeting to your next meeting, good or bad. So I think it's really important that we all learn to sort of give us that buffer zone. You know, I tell a lot of women, you know, when they're coming home from work, you know, do that before they get out of the car and come in the house so that they're ending work and walking into their personal space, you know, and just doing this. So I think that's a really great lesson.
Yeah, it really is. And it's all about being mindful. I mean, we're not perfect at it, and it's always a practice, right? I mean, there's obviously days when, you know, I'm not at my best and I forget to do that. And, you know, maybe I'm a little cranky with somebody, or maybe I'm not my best self. You know, it's always a practice. But I think if we're always working towards that and trying to preserve our energy, we're preserving someone else's too, right? We're helping them if they're helping, you know, it's kind of a relationship.
Yeah, it's that symbiotic relationship.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's shift it a little bit to this idea of mindfulness and self-care, because you and I have talked about this a lot and the importance that we need to make time. And I know you went from when I first met you working all the time, and now you have a pretty tight schedule, and you're like, and you are on it. You have your boundaries down and you're like, nope. Now, granted, if there's an emergency that comes up, a wedding, a big event, you always work with your clients, but for the most part, you're really good with your boundaries. So I would love to hear about how you maintain your boundaries, because that's challenging for women, and then we can dive into what you do for self-care.
Well, boundaries has always been really hard for me. I'm a giver, you know, it's one of those things. I'm a Cancer astrologically, so, you know, it's just in my nature. And so it's been really hard for me. It's a lifelong lesson. But what I realized is that, you know, I was getting angry with people for, you know, calling me at 9 in the morning on a Saturday. And I was like, well, I'm allowing this. They know it's okay. And I was getting mad that I was staying till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I'm, well, you're offering that to people, so of course they're gonna take it. So instead of me being angry with people for taking advantage of me, it's like, how about you just offer what you can do? And so I just decided that it would be so much better if I would just sit down and just realize what I can do and what I can handle and what my body can handle. Because as a career hairstylist, you know, I tried to go back to school to do something different, and I went and I started a master's program, and I didn't love it. I love doing hair. So I quit, and it's like, how can I preserve my body and my mind and my soul so I can keep doing this work? And so I just had to sit there and journal. I journaled for a while about my days at work and when I felt the best and when I felt the worst. When do I feel good for time for me? When do I feel good for time for other people? And I did for about 6 months every day. And I really got to get a feel for my vibe and how I felt. And after that 6 months, I really realized what that time frame is. And I just set it up. And I just told people, this is what I'm doing now, this is where I'm at. And unfortunately, if this doesn't work for you, I have some great people that I work with that would love to take you. And turns out everybody was really happy to morph to my schedule.
Isn't it amazing?
And I thought, you know, because in a client-based business, right? I mean, you're like, well, I can't do that because then they're going to go to someone else, or they're not going to be with me, or it's not going to work. And that's not true.
And I love that you bring this up, because I actually talk about you in some of the classes that I teach because of this exact thing. You know, people are so afraid that they're going to lose clients when they put boundaries up. And what we have to understand is that when, one, they're the right people, they will wait. And two, when we deliver value, they will wait for us. They're not going to wait forever, but they will wait a reasonable amount of time. And I remember there was a time where I was actually in San Diego teaching on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And being that that's my home and my family's there, probably would stay for the weekend. But I was on a flight home Friday morning at 6 a.m. because I had a 1 p.m. hair appointment. And you do not move those, you know? And again, I'm one of those people too. I have a crazy schedule. And you and I are always booking 2 or 3 appointments out because you want those people that see the value you bring and are going to trust you. And so I think for a lot of women out there, they need to start understanding that there is strength and there is acceptance in boundaries. And that's something I found too. When I started saying no, and this is when I can help you, the right people stuck by my side.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I think when you know you're good at what you do and you know you're gonna show up. I don't cancel on my clients ever.
No, you do not.
I've never, I mean, if I'm sick, obviously, which is really rare, I don't move people around. I respect their schedule and their time. They're moms, they're nurses, they're real estate agents, you know, they're entrepreneurs as well. And so when they set an appointment with me, that appointment won't move. And so they know I respect their time, and then they respect mine. And so I think, you know, they know I'm taking classes, I'm keeping up my skills, they know I'm taking care of myself. And so I think we have this mutual respect for one another, that we know we're going to show up for each other. And that feels really good, you know, especially with the women. I mean, I used to be a barber. I only did men's hair for, you know, the first couple of years. And so I've shifted into doing women's hair, especially over the last 20 years. And I have to say, no offense to men, but these relationships of supporting women, I really do feel like I'm supporting women. And I love it. And I want to help them in their lives and help them feel good about themselves so they can go and do those things.
Yeah. Excellent. So let me ask you this, because again, you're connecting all day long. At the same time, you're connecting as a business owner, and you are a solopreneur because you're just you. How do you, you know, connect with other people outside of business? Is, you know, because I found that for me. One time I remember looking around, and being that I came from real estate, I'm like, all my friends are realtors. You know, I need to find some people outside the industry. Do you ever find that happening for you?
Yeah, I do. Well, you know, it's hard. I realized, I used to think I was an extrovert. And I realized after COVID and everything got shut down, I'm not. I'm definitely an introvert. And so part of that was I was always overextending myself to maintain those relationships, right? And so what I realized is if I really just take time for myself, then I can make time and choose the people that I hang out with, right? I've really taken stock in the lifeboat. I think you've heard the lifeboat analogy, right? Those are your people, whoever you would take on that boat that comes around. And so that's who I focus on spending my time with when I do have the time. I try to make, you know, phone calls in the morning. I don't start work till 10 o'clock because I work late. So I try to have certain people I connect with in the morning. On the weekends, you know, there's certain nights of the week that I will hang out with people, certain nights I won't. I'm just very particular about when and how I spend my energy. Because before, it was just all the time whenever. And now it's just very specific about when and how I do it. But yeah, getting out of the industry was hard. You know, it's like all my friends were hairstylists when I was working in regular salons. But you just meet people and you just figure it out and you just hold those close to you and make time for them.
Yeah, you have to make time. It's work.
Yeah.
Just like any relationship.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's work to maintain those.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. There's days when I'm like, I am so tired, no way. But it's like, you know, when I want to go to my friend's her daughter's 5th birthday party, like that's important, you know, and I will make time for it. And so it's just choices, I think, and ways and learning to preserve your energy so you can make those choices.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, life is all about choices. And looking at, I like to always say is, you know, does this align with the grand vision I have for my life or for my business? You know, is this going to bring energy to me that I want and, you know, and enrich me? And just using that sort of as a measuring stick.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So as you're looking back through everything, what would you say is something that you are most proud of?
I would say I'm most proud of the relationships I've built with my clients, you know, in business. You know, that most people that I have in my chair, I've had for 15 plus years. I'm not able to take new clients very often because of that. And so I'm really proud of the relationships I've built with people because we do have staying power, you know, and when someone leaves, I do have a wait list of people that I can bring in. And so I'm really proud of that. It's really been, it's probably one of the most things that people try really hard in this industry to get to is having a full clientele and having that security. I think at the beginning, we always worry we're never going to have a real income, and we're never going to. It's always going to be fluctuating, and it's always going to be scary. And I don't feel that way. I feel very secure and stable in my job, and I'm proud of that.
That's wonderful. So if you were sitting down with, you know, maybe somebody that's just starting their business, whether they're younger or maybe going into a second career and just starting their business, what would be some things other than being open and vulnerable so you can have that authentic connection? What would be some other things that you would want to share with some other entrepreneurs starting out?
I would start with know your worth. I think that's a lot of people that are just starting out. There's this imposter syndrome that happens, right? And so they don't charge what they're worth. They don't express themselves in a way. I don't want to brag about what I am. I don't know quite enough yet. I'm not quite there yet. If you're in it and you're doing it, you know. And so have confidence in yourself and charge what you're worth. And start with boundaries. You know, if you start and you do that from the very beginning, you're never going to have to go back and change the way you do it. You'll always have that going. I mean, you can ebb and flow and move with it, but yeah, know your worth and start with boundaries.
So true. Sometimes it's very scary to say, oh, I'm going to charge this much. And I remember one of my coaches said to me, you need to be your best salesperson, because if you don't believe in yourself, how is the rest of the world going to believe in you and your worth?
Right.
And I think that's a lesson that I've had to learn, a few times over. And I'm kind of going through that growth spurt again right now of really understanding my worth as I'm stepping into some new roles. So even though you've been in your career for many years, you're constantly changing, you're constantly growing and working on new things. So as you look into the future, what's next for Renee?
Well, I've been, in the sort of dabbling in the health and wellness industry for since 2015, when I first got my yoga teacher training. So I stopped teaching when COVID hit. So I haven't been teaching yoga or meditation for a while, but I'm wanting to get back into that. And the energy work, the Reiki work has been really interesting. I've been doing a lot of that on the side as well. I would like to eventually create a program for hairstylists, actually, and help them learn how to preserve their energy, how to show up in that way, and how to work with energy in a way that makes their practice a little more holistic. It's a whole body situation. Yeah, I mean, we can't take care of our bodies if we can't take care of our emotional state and our mental state,
I think almost any person could use that in almost any industry, again, learning how to do that, because then you show up better. You show up more whole. You show up with the right energy to, again, serve at the highest level. So I think that would be right up your alley.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
That would be fun. I can't wait to see that happen.
I know, me too.
So, well, I really just wanted to say thank you for being here. You are one of the most beautiful people that I know, both inside and out. I love how you are authentic. I love how you are so non-judgmental and just accepting. You are someone that always works to see the whole picture and bring it in. And you always help me be a better person. And you help me see things in ways that I hadn't before. And you've always accepted me for who I am. And so I just want to say thank you. And I have a lot of gratitude for you and for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Clara. I have so much gratitude
and thank you for
you.
always making me look fabulous.
Well, it's not hard. You are fabulous. And thank you for everything. You've been there for me too, for everything in the last 20 years. And so I've always looked forward when you're coming to sit down. It always feels like, oh, thank gosh, it's Clara.
Well, yes. And I'm still coming for another at least 20 years.
Okay,
so.
good.
So
Great.
you have me in your books forever.
Till we're old and
Till
not
we're
gray.
old and yes, no, never gray.
Never gray.
Well, viewers, thank you so much for joining us today for this episode. We talked about the importance of boundaries. We talked about the importance and beauty of being vulnerable and how to make sure that you are showing up the best way, not just to serve your clients, but also to serve yourself. So you can rewatch this episode, catch all the episodes, and get all of your clarity at www.claracapano.com.